But I did finally, after a little bit of going back and forth, I did send them an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with an architectural drawing of the inside of my house that my architect had provided with the plans, and I just discovered it, so I sent it with with one of my emails. So then I get an email back from the assessor's office saying they were going to have to raise the valuation of my home $20,000 because I had 2 more bathrooms than they initially thought. And I thought I had to turn in house plans when I built this house, and the inspectors came into my house while it was being built every week. So why didn't you know I had those 2 extra bathrooms?
Interesting.
And you're determining it. Well, then I get another email back from the same fellow, and he said, if you'll drop your appeal, we won't raise your taxes this year.
Is that an official option?
I was floored.
Wow.
I was flabbergasted that this was even presented to me. It is, apparently, my neighbor also got the same information. We both dropped our appeals, and I just couldn't understand why it's on the books. She did just call the city manager, and he said it is on the books that way. And I just thought that is not the way to be dealing with taxpayers. That's extortion as far as I'm concerned. They should, it'd be a better way to deal with it is that we made a mistake. We didn't realize that you had 2 other bathrooms when we should have known, and therefore next year we'll raise your taxes. But this year everything's fine. But to threaten me, that I still am not going to forgive them.
That, right?
And
so
what did they, initially my property tax, what did they base that on?
right, exactly.
If not those drawings? Obviously there must be, everybody who does a remodel or builds a house has to submit plans to the city. So the assessor's office should be receiving that same information from the permitting office.
Right.
And this shouldn't be a problem.
On the
but-
website.
Right.
Of,
Well, I'm
Approved
curious
appeals
about
plan.
how many other people received the same treatment. I know my neighbor did, and she dropped her appeal, but I'm kind of, nobody's ever said anything to me. I've been very vocal about this because I'm still in shock about, this is not what I expected from my city government.
right.
I went to high school and I was raised at it's government of the people, by the people, for the people. But this is more like against the people. To me, it's just not a good idea to ever treat the people who you work for that way.
Right.
And
Well, I think if we approach government that things should be fair, that we should at least come to a meeting of the minds, right? Or attempt to.
Right.
But the attempt to procure that it doesn't happen at all by the same people who are supposed to be representative of the people is a problem to me.
I think too, it's interesting about the Board of Equalization, right? That it's of your peers, right? Which
well, I
is
certainly wouldn't want
again-
it to be government employees.
Well, I
totally.
just think that's also indicative of by the people, we the people, right? I think it's interesting, and it's an interesting push to push against that as well, because that does take away the power of the people that we believe should be there. I
Right.
mean, ultimately, part of our cause and our work here is knowledge, right? That as a peer, as a person of our country or our city, you gotta have a little knowledge.
Sure. A lot of people don't.
And
but-
very concerning. But at the same time, yeah, I think it's concerning when you're pushing against that is a massive, like that's what I see is a big concern. And when you're pushing against allowing
and
that.
part of the appeal process is that they ask you, what do you think your property should be assessed at? And I raised my property taxes in that realm the same percentage that it was last year, which I think was 10%, maybe 12%. So I wasn't unfair. I didn't say, oh, I shouldn't raise it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I raised it a little bit, and but that wasn't enough. And he did send me some boilerplating information with his email. I couldn't understand any of it. It was pie charts and numbers and stuff that had to do with any place in the world that assesses based on market value. He never really explained it fully. So I have no idea why mine went up 18%, while my neighbors went up 15%, and some neighbors went up 5%. That was never really fully explained to me,
Yeah, that's
or
interesting.
no attempt was made.
Can tell me if it was specifically for Juneau. It was just
No, the boilerplating was not. And as a matter of fact,
Right.
my brother is a realtor and property manager in Oregon, and so I called him to find out if there was any other means for adjusting assessments each year, and he said basically no, it's always on market value. But I guess people who live in pretty stable areas, it doesn't go up much. Like Juneau used to be pretty stable. My property taxes in this house were like 4, 5, 6% in the early years, and on the one I lived in on further out North Douglas, it was still around 4 or 5% per year, and which I thought was pretty fair. It goes up, but it doesn't go up exorbitantly. But
yeah.
Right.
And I had heard this in the rumor mill that what they're doing comparisons of market value against is outlandish, is I guess the best word.
oh yeah,
Because if you are comparing a market value to somewhere like, I think a good example would be San Francisco, where I have my cousin is an architect in San Francisco, and so he was able to show me some plans and show me some lots that were for sale. And if we're looking at a block, only a block, we're talking acres of land here in Juneau, a block is worth over like $1 million plus
Right.
dollars.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're comparing that to where we are, that's a stark difference.
but here it's I don't know how they're doing it, but you can't compare my house to one out by the glacier, for instance. I mean, that's just not fair.
Right.
It just isn't. And down in the flats in Juneau, there's people who love those kind of homes. They may be old or whatever, but they renovate them and stuff. But I just don't understand, other than the only thing that can be pretty blatantly stick out to me is the city's desire to build a new city building and to build the new Jack, and now to redevelop the hill up Telephone Hill. They have all these big projects that they want to do, and of course the only way they're going to be able to do those is to raise property taxes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I am sorry, but I voted no on the Jack. I voted no on the city office building, and I certainly am going to vote no on this is not the time. Right now people are hurting. I pay $200 a week for groceries, and it's just me, and my electric bill's going up, my sewer and water bill's going up. This is not the time to be doing those things.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years from now or 3 years when the economy is settled down, fine. I'll be more supportive then, but this is not the time to be doing it. People are hurting.
The timing is interesting. So,
It is.
and there's so much to say about that.
Right.
But yeah, we would like to see something different for sure.
Well, and you know what? The one comment that I did hear during this assessment was that the city had so many appeals that they were not getting to respond to them even on a timely basis, because they raised so many people's property taxes. And I had a meeting afterwards with some people who are business people from town, And apparently the people who own buildings downtown got their property taxes raised 50%.
Right.
That's like talking out of two sides of your mouth as far as the city goes. On the one hand, they're trying to tell everybody, support the downtown businesses and get downtown and shop down there. And on the other hand, they're raising their property taxes so that they have to raise their prices. And, you know, it's just, I don't understand. This assembly is a different animal as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, the good news is we have a bunch of candidates this year. We had
Wow.
no candidates last year.
I know. I'm very happy about that.
18,
18, right?
18 candidates.
I will not personally vote for any incumbent. I've had it with their politics. You know, never in my life as a property owner have I been approached by any assembly member to know what my opinion is. Even when they're campaigning, I don't get any literature in the mail. I don't have a clue who represents North Douglas. Over time, I've written several letters to the assembly people on subjects that have come up that it's not like I'm doing this every week, but I've never gotten a letter back from any of them. They're just, these people represent areas in town, and to me, they should be having, like our legislators have town hall meetings. I think the person who represents North Douglas should talk to the people who live on North Douglas and see what they feel about and area-wide, same business.
Yeah.
These people act like they're just there.